I'm going to bounce around a couple different just verses here. But we all can think of people who's been in church and got out of church, people who in our family who ain't in church, maybe never been in church, that needs to be in church, and people we work with that need to be in church, people we see day to day, all these different things that need the Lord, Roger. And I thought, and I'm going to hit a few of these different verses here, try to get to my point, but I've been thinking about what am I doing with my life and how important it is to actually be not just a Sunday morning light, not just a Wednesday night light, but to live it day in and day out. I remember hearing you not too long ago talk about H.M. Freeman when he prayed over his food that time. Those little things that we do day in and day out that shines a light in somebody else's life. I know Mike mentioned it when he was down here last Wednesday. He was asking them different stuff about the play, and he told Jaden that your life might be the only Bible that some people read, and that's very true. Our life, how we live it, a lot of people won't pick up, and I ain't even going to get into it, what translation. It really don't matter because they won't pick up any of them and get in the Word, get in the Bible. How they see us live is what they assume is what the Bible is. And if we ain't living what it is in front of them, shame on us. But what is our life, and what are we doing with it? What are we doing with the opportunities? And I keep, nobody knows it, but now they do. I keep I've tried to journal, but I ain't a good journaler. Anyway, I keep this little note thing as I do a lot of reading, and when something sticks out at me, not in a Bible, but just in books that I read, sounds interesting or makes me think, I kind of jot down quotes from different books. And this one I've had on my mind for a little while now. Mama, you know the guy that wrote it, Andy Andrews, wrote this book, and it's called The Noticer, or The Noticer Returns. There's two of them. It's about a man who he sits back and he notices things. He notices how people live. He notices what they're doing with their life, and he gives them advice, and he tries to point them in the right directions. And it made me think about how we need to be out there actively pointing people to Jesus. Not just, hey, come to church with me on Sunday, and when you get to church on Sunday, I'll show you a little bit of Jesus. I mean, what's hindering us from doing it while we're at work? Right. Why wait till Sunday when we've got right now, when we've got today, when we've got this time? The Bible says today's the day of salvation. It doesn't say salvation is only available, and I thank God for this because I wasn't saved inside the walls of a church. Salvation is not available just up there at an altar inside a church. Salvation is available when the knocking comes on your heart, when your heart falls under conviction. And sometimes what we say or do or how we live in front of somebody has an effect on that convicting spirit. And we can have a negative effect by holding back on that convicting spirit if we don't do what the Lord would have us to do. But a couple of verses here, and I want to read this quote, and I ain't got a whole lot, but verses I thought of that went with it. James 1:22, he tells us to be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. Be a doer. Don't be just a hearer only. Be a doer, not a reader only. I like to make notes. I like to highlight, but at some point, if all I'm doing is writing some notes in my Bible or highlighting some scriptures, it's just a highlighter, it's just the ink mark in my Bible. I've got to take it out of this. It's a living word. And I've got to take it and apply it to my life and be a doer. And I need to be doers in front of others. 2 Corinthians 4:3, one of my favorite verses, says, but if our gospel be hid, it's hid from them that are lost. If we're just living it in here inside these four walls of this church, we're hiding it from a whole lot of people. We've got a good number here tonight, but I guarantee you each and every one of us run into a lot more people than this on a day-to-day basis. We have a lot more opportunity. Hey, this may sound crazy, but when the little guy with the chickens clucking in the background calls you and wants you to swap over to AT&T, do you realize that's an opportunity to witness to somebody? I don't like the phone. I get mad when my phone rings no matter who it is. I just don't like talking on the phone, but that's an opportunity to reach out to somebody. I don't know what they're going through. And I don't have to. I don't have to know what you're going through. I don't even have to know who you are. But I can show you some Jesus in your life. And there's dangers if we hide our gospel. We'll get to that in a minute, but I want to read this quote here from Andy Andrews. He had this in this book, and I wrote it down, and put it a couple different places in my office because it makes me think a lot. He says, my friends, it all comes down to this. There comes a time in every person's life when a decision is required. And that decision, should you make it, will have a far-reaching effect on generations yet unborn. There is a thin thread that weaves from only you to hundreds of thousands of lives. Your example, your actions, and yes, even one decision that you make will literally change the world. For better or worse, one decision you make changes the course of the world for somebody. It says there, he said that there's a thin thread that weaves from you individually to hundreds of thousands of lives. As a thin thread, there's just a thin opportunity. I've said it before, there's people, Roger, that you can witness to that I'll never have the opportunity to. I might not ever run into them, and if I did, they might not ever listen to me, but they'll listen to you. There's people that'll listen to me that might not listen to Elijah. We all have our unique and our individual opportunities to share the gospel with somebody. I've said before, I'm tattooed up. There's a lot of churches ain't going to let me come into church and preach because of how I look. But there's other people that would listen to me because they look and they see, hey, he looks like I do. He talks like I do. He sounds like I do. We all have platforms to use for the Lord. We all have opportunities to do things for the Lord. And it's important that we use them and we take advantage of them and we don't let them slide by because we never know. He said in his little quote there, he was talking about generations yet unborn. There's things that we do today, decisions we make today that's going to affect, if the Lord tarries is coming, Elijah, your great-grandkids, you know that. Decisions you make today, you're going to have great-grandkids that's going to be affected by what you decide today. I never thought of that when I was your age. I thought about today and today only and what affected me. I've always heard that. I ain't hurting nobody but myself. That's the biggest lie in the world the devil can tell you. Because every choice you make, every decision you make has some effect on somebody around you. Everybody sees. And they may have you up on, and I'm not saying up on a pedestal like an idol or something, but they may think the world of you. And it just takes that one wrong decision or that one bad choice to tar or taint or whatever you want to say your testimony. And we have that in front of us every day. And the devil wants us to make those decisions, so he'll make them look good. He'll make them sound easy. He'll make them be enticing. But we have to actively be doers. We have to actively choose to serve God day by day. Paul said he had to die daily to sin. I have to die daily to sin. I have to die between getting up and getting to work to sin, because there's things that I think, or there's things that I'm like, I want to do this on, but it's not of God. And I'm not perfect, and none of us are going to be perfect. We're not always going to get this thing right, but the point is we need to strive to. Because there's generations, if God doesn't send His Son back to take us home, there's generations to come, and I don't know if you've looked around. You don't even have to watch the news. You don't have to look on the internet. You can just walking around, sense tells you this world is worse than it was 10 years ago, than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. My granddaddy's America does not exist anymore, just being honest. Your grandparents, what America looked like when they was alive, it don't exist anymore. And if we think it's bad now, what's it going to be like when you get on down to Elijah's great-grandkids' generation? What's going to be left? Somebody has to stand up. Somebody has to carry on the banner. Somebody has to pass it along. But we have to show a desire, and we have to show that it is worth it after all, that there is something to this thing to encourage the younger folks to want to take part. And you go over here at the end of Joshua, in the book of Joshua, he tells them, this is 24 and 15. He says, if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, and the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's time. It's wrapping up. I've said it before. I've heard all my life. Y'all probably, every one of y'all's heard, the Lord's coming back. The Lord's coming back soon. Look, I don't know. It may be tomorrow. It may be 100,000 years from now. I just know I'm one day closer than I was yesterday. And it's time. It's high time we decide to serve the Lord and to go all out, go all in, sell out for Him. Whatever we've got hidden in the corner, give that to Him. Whatever spare room we got in the back of the house, give that to Him. He don't want to. There's a comedian, you can look him up if you want to. He's kind of funny. His name's Michael Jr. and he talks about the good room. And he's talking about his grandmama had a good room. And he said that was the room where the furniture was just so, the carpet was real clean, and the kids didn't go play in the good room. The good room was for the visitors. And he goes on and he's funny. He tells his jokes about the good room. But then he says, that's how we treat God. Jesus comes and knocks. And we open up and we want to let Him in, but we only want to let Him see the good room. Jesus wants the nasty laundry room too. He wants all of it. And if we'll give it all to Him, I think he goes on to say, not only does He want to come in and clean it up, He's standing outside with the apron on and the scrub brush and the gloves. He's the only one who can do that. But there's an important piece that we need to do, and that's continue sharing it with others. Living it day by day, because when Joshua told them, choose you this day who you're going to serve. As for me and my house, I'm going to serve the Lord. If you flip over, I don't know how mine is just one old page. From the last book of Joshua to the very next book, the first book of Judges. I imagine there's just a little bit of time in between the two. But if you look in Judges chapter 2, verse 8 through 10, it says, and Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died, being 110 years old, and they buried him in the borders of his inheritance in Timnath-Heres in the mountain of Ephraim on the north side of the hill of Gash. Now listen at verse 10. It says, and also all the generations were gathered unto their fathers. All the ones who had went through being led out of Egypt and saw what God did with Moses. All the ones who went through the wilderness and saw how God supplied water and how God supplied manna and how He did all these great things while we're in the wilderness. All the generations that came with Joshua into the land and saw the walls of Jericho fall, saw all the land conquered, saw great armies run with no fight put before them. It was just God. All these generations, it says, were gathered unto their fathers, and there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which He had done for Israel. If we don't show them now, that's the generation that's coming up behind us. Elijah, that's the generation that, 16, 17 years from now when Clyde and Andy and Bride are 17 years old, that generation is going to face a whole different thing. And I don't feel young, but I am relatively young. But 17 years from now, I really ain't going to be young. They ain't going to want to listen to old man B. But they might listen to you. But are you going to be around to shine your light? There's no place for us to put our light down. We talked about before, I think, in Sunday school one time about the temple. The priests had all these different jobs, and they had all this fancy stuff they built, the candlestick, the showbread table, the altar, everything was real fancy, but nowhere in there did God tell them to build a chair to sit down when you was tired, to build a chair to sit down when you were done, because there's still a work to be done. There's still people to share the gospel with. When we look around and we think we've done all we can do, we can always do a little bit more. I think I've shared this story before, and maybe you'll get this if nobody else does. My senior year in football, we were undefeated until the last game of the season. And we played center, and they were 8-1, we were 9-0, and we thought we was big bad. They brought in extra bleachers, and they had us on local TV, and oh man, this was the big deal. And we went to the end of the ball game tied 0-0. They took us back in the locker room, and Coach Rob come in there, and this has stuck with me. God, I've been out of school, 30 years or so now, I guess, almost 30 years. And it's stuck with me ever since. But he came in the locker room before we go out from overtime. It's tied 0-0. Possibly the last game we ever played there at our field. And he said, real simple. He didn't give no big pump-up, rah-rah speech or anything. He said, tomorrow morning when you wake up, you're going to have to look at yourself in the mirror. And are you going to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say you gave it all you had? Spiritually, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror. Spiritually, we're going to stand before God one day. Let's go there, and there's going to be no excuse. Excuses don't exist in heaven. Excuses don't work with the Lord. We're going to have to stand and say, did we give it all we could have? Or could we done a little bit more? Could I have prayed one more time for that lost person? Could I have witnessed to them one more time? They're sick of hearing me. I know they're sick of hearing me because when I get up there, they see me coming down the aisle in Walmart, they turn and run because they know exactly what I'm going to say to them. We all know people like that. Does that give us a reason to stop? Where do we put down? Where do we lay the banner down? My opinion is when we get on the other side of glory, there's nowhere on this side of the gates of pearls where I'm supposed to stop, where I'm supposed to lay it down and quit sharing Jesus Christ. 45 years old, if I double that and live to whatever double that is, 90, if I live to 90 and I'm physically able, I guess I'm going to be standing up preaching somewhere. Why? Because that's what I'm supposed to do. There's nowhere to stop. There's still people that need to hear. If we pack out this church Sunday morning, I said, I've told Mike before, I want to see it so full. There's both of them little side wings are full, and we had to bring out the folding chairs. I would love to see that, but if we ever get to that point and it's like that, I want one more. I'm not being greedy, and I'm not saying it's about the numbers, but I just want as many people as I can to hear about my Lord Jesus Christ, because I know what He did for me. I know who I used to be, Keith. I see people who are just like I used to be. And I just be honest with you, I want to go up sometimes and shake them and hit them over the head with the Bible and just beat it in them, but it don't work that way. But I got to keep living it in front of them. Because maybe they're going home that night saying, you know what, I remember him from high school. He didn't used to be like that. Me and him used to run around. We used to do this, that, and the other. Something's different. I want them to ask. I want them to know that something's different. Something's changed. But most importantly, I want them to know that what I've got tonight, you can have it too. This isn't an exclusive club. Matter of fact, John 3:16, it said, whosoever will. You don't have to be a card-toting this. You don't have to dress this way. You don't have to have, what was that that was popular in the 80s? You don't have to have your members-only jacket. You don't. Just come as you are. Give it to Him and let Him take care of the rest. But tonight, what are we doing for the Lord? What could we be doing more? What is our life showing? There's a lot of young folks up there. There's going to be a lot of people, I have no doubt, that will be here Sunday to see these kids in this skit. Even if they wouldn't have this skit, they'd be here Sunday because it's Easter. And as Cody, what's Cody's last name from you again? Cody Mashburn told me one time they were CEO Christians. He said that's the ones that show up on Christmas, Easter, and other special occasions. Now, there's a lot of CEO Christians that'll show up on Christmas, Easter, and other special occasions. Let them show up because I want to hook them. I want them to get a hold of something that'll never let go. Tonight, if you need anything, God's got your answer. I don't know what you're going through. We're all going through a battle. If you're alive and breathing, you're going through something because life's tough. Life's hard. Life gets us down, but we've got a hope in Jesus Christ that there's something greater waiting for us on the other side. Miss Gloria, if y'all get a verse of the song, if y'all want to sing Amazing Grace or something, if you've got a need tonight, we want to pray with you. If you're lost, I don't ever want to take for granted Wednesday nights. You always think of as that's the dedicated folks that show up on a Wednesday night. But I don't ever want to take for granted that everybody under the sound of my voice is saved and on their way to heaven, because you don't know. If you need to get saved tonight, there's no better chance than now. If you've walked away and need to come back, there's no better chance than now. If you have a need or a burden, He is the burden carrier.